Welcome to Wrestling Sphere, your go-to spot for everything wrestling, where legends come alive and stories hit hard. In the world of professional wrestling, glory and fame are only part of the story. Many wrestlers have reached the peak of their careers, but after leaving WWE, they face harsh challenges few ever see. From financial struggles to physical and mental injuries, their stories offer valuable lessons in resilience and determination. Today, join Wrestling Sphere as we explore the lives of those who lost everything after leaving WWE, uncovering the reality behind the spotlight. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss fascinating stories from the world of pro wrestling. Ric Flair, from royalty to rock bottom. Ric Flair was once the epitome of extravagance in professional wrestling. With his flowing blonde hair, sparkling robes, stepping out of limousines, and wearing a Rolex like a true gentleman of the golden era, the Nature Boy was not just a ring icon. He lived the high-class lifestyle even off stage. But that very lifestyle became a silent blade, slowly cutting away his career and fortune over the years. Despite earning tens of millions over decades of wrestling, Flair's story proves that money alone can't save someone from destructive habits. For failed marriages, mounting alimony payments, failed investments, and unchecked extravagance pushed him into financial hardship. After his emotional farewell match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24, fans believed Flair would enjoy a peaceful life in glory. Yet behind the spotlight was a simmering financial crisis with no escape. His attempt to rebuild through Ric Flair finance quickly fell apart within months. Missed bookings, constant lawsuits, and being forced to return to the ring in TNA despite announcing retirement, all because he needed cash. The meager earnings from TNA were barely enough to handle debts owed to 3 ex-wives and crushing taxes. Even when criticized for drunken episodes, reckless spending, or losing control in public, Flair struggled to keep going. At his lowest point, Vince McMahon, his former boss, ally, and benefactor, loaned him $800,000 to pay off debts. Flair refused to declare bankruptcy, saying he couldn't live with himself if he did. Though he has paid off part of his debt, his life remains a fragile balancing act. Recently, Flair has returned to business with brands like WO Energy Drink and his own cannabis products. But everything he does now is aimed at keeping his legendary name from fading into financial darkness. Ric Flair's painful story is a clear lesson. Even icons can fall if they live too long in the spotlight without knowing when to stop. Hulk Hogan, from the pinnacle of fame to financial ruin. If there's one face that instantly comes to mind when thinking of wrestling's golden era in the 1990s, it's Hulk Hogan. With his iconic bright yellow bandana, distinctive deep voice, and the famous catchphrase, "What ya gonna do, brother?" Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a cultural phenomenon. His fame brought in tens of millions from every possible avenue: wrestling paychecks, movies, endorsements, and branded merchandise. Yet behind the glitz and glamour, Hulk Hogan's life was marked by a series of financial shocks that stunned many. For years, he lived like a superstar, enjoying luxurious mansions, sports cars, yachts, and even a private jet. But 2009 became a brutal turning point when his wife, Linda, filed for divorce after 26 years of marriage. That divorce nearly wiped Hogan out financially. Linda walked away with 70% of their liquid assets, 40% ownership in his businesses, a property settlement of $3 million, and rights to future income. What was once a fortune estimated around $30 million suddenly evaporated overnight, leaving Hogan on the brink of financial collapse. The troubles didn't stop there. In 2012, a private sex tape of Hogan was leaked publicly, triggering a high-profile legal battle with Gawker, the media company Hogan sued for invasion of privacy. Although Hogan won the case and was awarded $140 million in 2016, Gawker settled for $31 million before shutting down. That settlement helped Hogan regain some stability, but the years of hardship left lasting scars. Refusing to give up, Hogan worked hard to rebuild his image by returning to WWE, signing commercial deals, opening restaurants, and even launching his own energy drink brands. While he never fully regained his former peak status, he avoided falling into total ruin. Having lost almost everything, Hulk Hogan proved that, true to his name, he could hulk up and rise again after every storm. Lex Luger, from America's muscle icon to a life in ruins. Lex Luger was once hailed as WWE's next big hope, destined to inherit Hulk Hogan's legacy as a quintessential American hero. With a sculpted physique often described as a living work of art and a classic wrestling style, WWE invested heavily in crafting his image. His iconic moment came in 1993 when he hoisted Yokozuna aboard the USS Intrepid aircraft carrier, a scene promoted as a legendary victory symbolizing the nation's hero. However, despite the massive push, Luger never truly connected with the fans on an emotional level. The carefully built WWE machine promoting him collapsed quickly. In 1995, Luger left WWE and signed a lucrative deal with WCW, where his salary skyrocketed into the millions during the heated Monday Night Wars. What seemed like a smooth ride soon turned turbulent. When WWE bought out WCW in 2001, Luger was left stranded, no contract, no clear direction. His personal life began a steep decline. In 2003, his girlfriend, Miss Elizabeth, suddenly passed away at their home, shocking the wrestling world. While he wasn't charged in connection to her death, police found over 1,700 pills and illegal steroids in his house, resulting in 13 criminal charges, fines, bail fees, and legal costs that nearly wiped him out financially. Tragedy struck again just a few years later. In 2007, Luger suffered a spinal stroke that caused temporary paralysis from the neck down. The years-long medical treatments and rehabilitation drained his resources completely. Although he partially regained movement, he was left reliant on a wheelchair and medical support programs from WWE. Today, once a millionaire wrestling star, Lex Luger survives on appearances at small events, fairs, and autograph signings to make ends meet. He maintains a healthy lifestyle, has overcome addiction, and still keeps close ties to the wrestling community. When he appeared at AEW Revolution 2024 to witness the farewell match of his longtime friend Sting, Luger sat quietly in his wheelchair, eyes reflective amid the crowd, a stark contrast to the massive expectations WWE had for him more than 3 decades ago. Sunny, once a shining icon, then a downward spiral with no escape. Tammy Lynn Sitch, better known as Sunny, was a role model for a new generation in wrestling. In the 1990s, she wasn't just a side character. Sunny paved the way for the WWE Diva concept, blending beauty, charisma, and audience appeal in a way no one had before. With her blonde hair, radiant smile, and seductive style, she quickly became one of the most photographed women on the internet, a record during the early boom of digital media. However, behind the spotlight lay a tragic story. Although Sunny never earned the huge sums that male superstars did at the time, she still made hundreds of thousands through WWE, personal appearances, and modeling work. But as her career rose, personal struggles took over, and everything rapidly spiraled out of control. By the mid-2000s, Sunny life had taken a dark turn filled with arrests, substance abuse, and financial ruin. She tried to stay afloat by doing small shows, selling personal photos on social media, and relying on fan sponsorships. Yet legal troubles kept piling up. In 2012 alone, she was arrested 5 times within 1 month on charges ranging from theft to violating restraining orders. But the worst was yet to come. In March 2022, while driving drunk with a revoked license, Sunny caused a serious accident in Florida that killed a 75-year-old man. She was arrested and faced multiple charges, the most severe being manslaughter. In November 2023, Sunny was sentenced to 17 years in prison with an additional 8 years of probation. From one of WWE's most beloved figures, she transformed herself into one of wrestling's most tragic and notorious stories. A journey from the heights of fame down into the depths of despair, one not everyone can recover from after such a fall. Dynamite Kid, pioneer of a generation, and a tragic end. In the history of professional wrestling, few have left as profound a mark as Dynamite Kid. Born Tom Billington, he was the embodiment of innovation, masterfully blending British technical wrestling, the fierce intensity of Japanese style, and the agile speed of Mexican lucha libre to create an unprecedented wrestling school. Moves like the snap suplex, diving headbutt, and even the powerful powerbomb, once groundbreaking, bore his unmistakable signature. Today's stars like Chris Benoit, Daniel Bryan, and Finn Balor owe part of their style to his influence. However, the price for such creativity was brutally harsh. During his WWE career and his matches in Japan throughout the 1980s with the British Bulldogs, Billington was praised as a technical icon. Yet behind the scenes, he was known for his aggressive temperament and reckless lifestyle. He refused to rest even after suffering serious back and leg injuries, never properly treating them. Every time he stepped into the ring, his body was pushed beyond limits, until it simply couldn't take any more. In 1996, Right after his retirement match in Japan, Dynamite Kid suffered a stroke at the airport. A year later, he became partially paralyzed and completely unable to work. Without steady income, the money he earned from worldwide tours quickly vanished, consumed by painkillers, medical bills, and ongoing legal troubles. By 2016, the situation had become so dire that his wife had to ask the community for donations just to bring him home from a treatment center. In a message to fans, she emphasized that despite Billington dedicating his youth to wrestling, they received no royalties or support from WWE, leaving the family overwhelmed by financial burdens. Tom Billington passed away on December 5, 2018, coincidentally his 60th birthday. A sorrowful ending for a man once a symbol of wrestling innovation, who spent his final years in silence, pain, and poverty. Scott Hall, a fallen star behind the spotlight. Scott Hall was once one of the biggest icons in professional wrestling during the 90s. Whether as the stylish Razor Ramon in WWE or a founding pillar of the legendary NWO faction in WCW, Hall always carried undeniable star power. He was adored, celebrated, and earned millions annually. At WCW, his salary reached as high as $1.4 million, a dream figure in the industry. But behind the bright lights, Hall's life was shadowed by darkness. Since 1983, when he was involved in a nightclub shooting incident as a security guard, his past began to haunt him. Though acquitted due to lack of evidence, the event deeply affected Hall, who later admitted it was one of the triggers for his battle with addiction. Joining WCW in 1996 marked his peak professionally but also the start of his downfall. The freedom at WCW came with a reckless lifestyle. Drugs, alcohol, and partying became daily habits. His addiction worsened to the point where the company controversially incorporated his struggles into a televised storyline. After WCW folded, Hall found himself largely blacklisted by major promotions. WWE brought him back in 2002, but after just 2 months, he was released again due to relapse. Without steady income, Hall spiraled into financial ruin and deteriorating health. By 2013, he was living in dire conditions, needing a hip replacement he couldn't afford. Diamond Dallas Page, an old friend, rallied the wrestling community, raising over $110,000 to help get Hall the care he needed. Under DDP's guidance, Hall successfully overcame addiction and was honored with a WWE Hall of Fame induction in 2014. In the end, though, the past caught up with him. Complications from hip surgery led to Hall's passing in March 2022, closing a turbulent chapter, one that spanned from dazzling stardom to harsh darkness few can survive. Daphne, the enigmatic warrior, and the price she paid. In a wrestling world once filled with typical feminine archetypes, Daphne was a breath of fresh air. With her wild black hair, gothic makeup, and haunting scream, she stood out like no one else. She wasn't just a unique presence in the crowd. She was a fighter willing to bleed, break bones, and sacrifice her body for the art she loved. From her early days in WCW to her rise in TNA, Daphne was one of the bravest women in wrestling. She dove into hardcore matches and even faced male opponents, an uncommon sight at the time. One of her most infamous moments was being thrown through a table covered in barbed wire by Abyss, a shocking image etched into fans' memories. But behind the glory, Daphne paid a brutal price. Repeated collisions caused her multiple concussions and serious physical injuries. When medical bills soared over $26,000, she turned to TNA for help. The answer was a cold rejection. Since she was classified as an independent contractor, she wasn't eligible for compensation. Desperate, she filed a lawsuit against TNA. Instead of justice, the legal battle deepened her financial crisis. By the time the case ended in 2013, Daphne was nearly broke. No money, no contract, no future. In the following years, she eked out a living through small indie shows and signing sessions at fanfares. But the income was barely enough to hold her life together. She struggled with her health, mental well-being, and a crushing sense of abandonment. In September 2021, Daphne live-streamed a deeply painful video, speaking openly about her despair and feeling trapped with no way out. Shortly after, she tragically took her own life, sending shockwaves through the wrestling community. Her death stands as a harsh reminder: not all stars fade away in brilliant light. Some give everything, and receive only silence when they need help the most. Joey Mercury, from rock bottom to redemption, thanks to a helping hand. Joey Mercury was a key figure in the surge of young talent that exploded in the mid-2000s. Alongside Johnny Nitro and Melina, the M&M group brought not only a flashy Hollywood image but also captured fans' hearts with their sharp wrestling style. A three-time WWE Tag Team Champion, Mercury was seen as a rising star, but behind the spotlight, his life told a very different story. He started using drugs at just 15, a dark past hidden beneath his TV success. In a world where painkillers were almost considered a professional tool, Mercury's addiction only worsened. Tragedy struck at the 2006 Armageddon event when a brutal ladder strike shattered his nose and orbital bones. Though he tried to come back wearing a protective mask, both his mind and body had crossed the breaking point. In 2007, WWE released him. Without a steady income, he spiraled into crisis. Constantly hopping between independent shows, trying to make ends meet while drowning in addiction, Mercury lost nearly everything. By 2009, he was nearly broke, his house foreclosed, with no way out. In the darkest moment, a friend appeared, CM Punk. More than just a colleague, Punk was a longtime close friend. Instead of watching Mercury fall apart, Punk did the unexpected. He wrote a six-figure check to buy back Mercury's home so he wouldn't lose his place to live. That act of kindness changed Mercury's life. He got clean, returned to WWE in 2010 as an enforcer for the Straight Edge Society. When his in-ring career couldn't reach previous heights, he transitioned backstage, becoming a respected producer. Stars like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose often mention Mercury as a quiet mentor. Joey Mercury's story is not just about a fall. It's a testament to the power of friendship, loyalty, and the ability to rise from the depths when someone reaches out a helping hand. Kamala, the giant of the golden era and his quiet farewell. At WWE's most glorious period, Kamala wasn't just a character. He embodied fear, wildness, and mystery. With his massive frame, tribal face paint, and bare feet stomping the ring, the Ugandan giant was a nightmare for any opponent who dared step into the squared circle. From Hulk Hogan to The Undertaker, top stars faced him, an unmistakable icon of wrestling's golden age. But behind the mask and wild performances, James Harris, the man behind Kamala, lived a very different life. Despite appearing at major events, Harris was never fairly compensated. While his contemporaries earned hundreds of thousands of dollars, he often received just a few hundred per match, even in front of crowds of tens of thousands. Without long-term contracts or royalties, he was nearly forgotten once the spotlight faded. Kamala's post-WWE life was a continuous struggle. Years of wrestling barefoot caused severe damage to his feet. Diabetes, high blood pressure, and related complications forced doctors to amputate both his legs in 2011 and 2012. Unable to work and without steady income, he relied on social assistance and made wooden chairs by hand to sell, a stark contrast to his former legendary image. Though he once thrilled millions, Kamala faded into obscurity. No retirement plan, no savings, and no real gratitude from the industry that demanded his life's sacrifice. In August 2020, he passed away at age 70 from complications related to COVID-19, ending a tragic journey of a man who once commanded the world's attention. Kamala lived as a legend but left quietly, a silent victim of an industry far too harsh on those no longer under the spotlight. Batista, from WWE's peak to rock bottom and an epic comeback. When Batista left WWE in 2010, he had already established himself as one of professional wrestling's brightest stars. With 6 world championships under his belt, the Animal wasn't just the centerpiece of WrestleMania's biggest matches. He had built a massive fan base and was regarded as an essential icon in WWE history. However, despite reaching the top of his career, Batista felt unfulfilled. He wanted more, dreaming of breaking into Hollywood, pursuing acting, and proving himself beyond the ring, much like The Rock had done before him. So, he made the decision to leave WWE without a clear backup plan. At first, things seemed promising. Batista walked away with a hefty fortune from WWE, luxury cars, and a lavish lifestyle many envy. But the film industry didn't welcome him as easily as expected. Unlike The Rock, who smoothly transitioned, Batista struggled to find the right roles. Less than a year after leaving WWE, he hit rock bottom, nearly broke and facing harsh reality. In an honest interview, Batista admitted, "I left at my peak. I was comfortable, life was good. But then I was starving for 3 years. I was broke and couldn't find work." Despite the hardships, Batista didn't just return to wrestling to make money. He patiently waited for his big break in acting. Then in 2014, luck smiled on him when he was cast as Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy, a career-defining role that paid him $1.4 million. From there, his acting career skyrocketed. Batista appeared in major blockbusters like Spectre, Blade Runner 2049, Dune, and Knock at the Cabin. He also made a few WWE returns, including his final match against Triple H at WrestleMania 35 before officially retiring. Today, Batista stands as one of the most successful wrestlers to transition into Hollywood. His journey, from WWE's summit, falling to the depths, then rising again, proves the power of resilience and determination. Sometimes, daring to take big risks is what leads to the greatest rewards. Life after WWE isn't always as rosy as many people imagine. The stories of wrestlers losing everything serve as a reminder of the unseen dark side of professional wrestling. Yet, it's through these struggles that we witness the incredible strength and willpower of those who once made history. They are not just stars in the ring, but also shining examples of resilience and courage in life. If today's story inspired you or sparked some reflection, please support Wrestling Sphere by subscribing, sharing the video, and leaving a comment below. Thank you for joining us, your home for unforgettable wrestling stories from around the world. See you in the next videos.